Live once again. Jack, we
Oh,
should be able to hear you now. We should be
hopefully
able to
that would
see
be.
us now. Everything should be up to speed, and I am just making sure that we get our outreach there. But Jack, you were starting to go on a little bit of a rant there about the Vikings and the kicking situation and everything. Go ahead and continue with that, so that way all the beautiful people at home can hear you.
Yeah, I was just saying the week's been busy. It's hard to enter a week after a frustrating loss, as frustrating as the one was in Tampa Bay. I think we saw a Vikings team go out and completely dominate the first half, and they were down by what was it, 11 points at the end of the first half. It was one of those games where I said what I was trying to say before we had some technical difficulties. It was just prototypical Minnesota sports fashion that the Vikings found a way to lose. They went out and they exploited Tampa Bay's run defense with Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook got off to a hot start, but while doing that, and this is kind of bouncing into the next half, I saw a video today. They chewed up eight
Prototypical
minutes of clock on their first drive in the first half or the second half, I believe. I don't know if it was the first drive. It was one of their drives. Chewed up 8 minutes of clock while running the ball with Dalvin Cook. I said last week before the show or during last week's show before the game that this was a game that had to be won through the air. It wasn't going to be a game where you could necessarily win. The Vikings almost did win in doing it the Mike Zimmer way, controlling the clock. But we needed to I wanted to see Kirk Cousins kind of take a couple shots on first and second down rather than running on first and second down. And then obviously the Dan Bailey struggles. There was some questionable pass interference calls as well that I don't want to get too into, because at the end of the day, the Vikings, they made plenty of mistakes. They shot themselves in the foot. I am not one that's going to come out and say that the officials in Tampa Bay completely ruined Jordan's prediction that he's been predicting every week. So thank you for that. We've been waiting for Jeff Gladney to get his interception. The refs in that game, I think, Jordan, were listeners of Load the Box. They didn't want you to have the moment, because that was a Jeff Gladney pick six that got taken away because of a very, very questionable pass interference call. I know there was some physicality that Jeff Gladney used. That's one of the reasons why we both love Jeff Gladney so much. But he was going up against a receiver that was a big-bodied wide receiver in Mike Evans. And Mike Evans, frankly, he slipped, and the contact came after he had already fallen to the ground. Very frustrating, because that would have been a 10-point swing right there. It would have been a 14-point swing, because they scored a touchdown because of that, and that would have been a touchdown going the other way. A lot of other mistakes. The offensive line continued to look hideous, which I think showed me a side of Kirk Cousins that I've been waiting to see. I think the entire state of Minnesota has been waiting to see. I think he finished with over 40 rushing yards on the day, which is as crazy of a Kirk Cousins stat that I have ever heard, because we don't see that. I saw a tweet today that said over the last 3 games, he's actually ran for more yards than he has throughout his entire career, which is it's a huge step forward. But at the same time, I don't know if I necessarily want Kirk Cousins running around. I like that he's adding that mobility, but the reason he's adding that mobility is because the interior of the Vikings offensive line has been that atrocious. Dakota Dozier, if you saw the picture of him on Twitter, there was a play where he legit looked like he was playing nose tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It looked like he was rushing the passer. He was rushing after Kirk Cousins. That's not a good look. It's time to get somebody else in that position. I don't know. I mean, they let Pat Elflein go. At this rate, I would take Pat Elflein over Dakota Dozier in a heartbeat. We just need some sort of change. That unit, it's not looking like what I had hoped it would look like. It's kind of being inconsistent, and quite frankly, we say everything starts up front. Everything does start up front, and there's inconsistency both on the offensive and defensive line, and it's leading to the inconsistency of this Vikings football team.
Bite your tongue, because Pat Elflein belongs on the soon to be 0-16 Jets. He doesn't deserve to wear purple and gold, or even purple and black and kind of yellow like the Ravens will. He doesn't deserve to be in the league. I hate him. Pat Elflein is still the team got better. I think if that was him playing on Sunday, that game, we don't even score 14 points. We're lucky to get a field goal. Oh, wait, even if we kicked one, like an extra one, probably would have missed by about 50 yards anyway, because Dan Bailey's not very good. You'll notice if you're tuning into the show that the name of this show is fittingly named the Battle of the Heartbreaking Kickers. Of course, Chicago a few years ago had this team of destiny. Mitch Trubisky was the best quarterback in the league, and they had this defense and with Khalil Mack, and they had all the pieces in place, new head coach, a whiz kid, and then they double doinked the ball. Luckily, our kicking woes, other than Blair Walsh, our more recent kicking woes just cost us a regular season game, which didn't even put us out of playoff contention. I will be the voice of optimism and say if we win out and Arizona loses one game, they still play the Rams again. They still play San Francisco. I think they play the Eagles this week, so they have three games.
A new look Eagles team, by the way, with Jalen Hurts, who looked okay last week. Last week.
Yeah, no, Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's go back and watch the tape. Jack Day, number one fan of getting Jalen Hurts, and then I watched him throw at the combine, and I was just like, you know what? Trade up into the second round and get this guy. Like, this guy is going to be good. He looked good on Sunday. So,
can I say something before we get into the whatever you want to call it for the rest of this game, put this game in the past and get to the next game? That is the reason I will sit up here and I will continue to defend Kirk Cousins, because that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years on the show. It's always kind of been I've always, for the most part, when he's had awful games, I will call him out for his awful games, but he's also had some very good games for us. And people are mad that he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but he has the capabilities to get this team to the next level. Yes, he might need more pieces around him. Having said that, look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz a couple years ago was playing at an MVP level, and they took a quarterback in the second round this year. And look what it's doing for them. I know Jalen Hurts has only played one game now, but Carson Wentz has struggled. And they had this new shiny toy that they were able to kind of develop for the first half of the season. And now they're starting to push him out there. And he looked damn good against the Saints. That is the reason why the Minnesota Vikings need to draft a quarterback this year. I will stick up for Kirk Cousins when he deserves credit, and I will bash him when he has a poor game. But the reason why we need a quarterback is exactly what's happening in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Carson Wentz, and I'm sure if you told the Eagles, you know, he was on that MVP season, and you tell the Eagles, yeah, hey, in 2 years, you guys are going to draft a quarterback in the second round, and he's going to end up starting that season as a rookie, and, you know, they'd tell you, you know, they wanted some of what you were smoking. Like, they wouldn't buy into it, and I think you see teams consistently drafting quarterbacks middle to late. Even if you have, you know, the guy like Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, you still kind of just put your feelers out, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know when a collarbone's going to pop out. You never know when a knee's going to pop the wrong way. And then, you know, the Vikings a few years ago, we had Teddy. His leg fell off. Who was our backup? It was like something, I can't remember. It was some kid out of Wisconsin that we had. And then we had some old man whose name I can't remember, but we had this old
spacing on me as well.
I know it's gonna bug me, and I'll have to look it up later. But we had an old man at quarterback. We end up having to trade all these picks to get Sam Bradford, who comes in just to be a band-aid and go 8-8, because we thought we had a Super Bowl capable roster, and you don't want to waste that window that you have. So I agree with you. I don't care how well Cousins plays. I do think taking a quarterback, especially in a class that's this deep, you know, you have to take a shot at like a Trask late in the first, or, you know, in the second, which is going to require you to trade. You have to take a shot at somebody, even if it's Desmond Ridder out of UC, a little bit of UC homer bias. You have to take a shot at, you know, somebody that you think could develop into being that guy, even if Cousins ends up just dominating the league for the next 10 years and just completely turns his career around. You still have to take that chance. But overall, Vikings lose the game. Brady looked shaky first quarter. They kind of turned it on second quarter and beyond. Vikings defense did start to get some stops. Vikings couldn't make a kick to save their lives. That's really the story of this game. I think everybody's saying this. The Vikings played better than the Buccaneers. The Vikings are now the only team in the NFL to lose a game in which they held the ball for 39 or more minutes in the game. And we've not just lost one, Jack. We've lost two of them. So the only team to lose one, and we have lost two. So not a good look. Clearly a young team, clearly finding ways to lose games at this point. But I do think there's optimism going into next year. But we'll talk about the optimism for next year when and if we lose to the Chicago Bears. Because if we lose to the Bears, season's over, pack it in. Let's go ahead. Let's do the draft specials. Let's start talking about, you know, quarterbacks, defensive linemen, all the positions that we might look at in the draft. So, I'm good to move on from this game. Oh, I guess we should do game balls in this game. My game ball is going to go to Tyler Conklin, who I think had like 3 catches for like 60 yards. or 6 catches for like 50 yards or something. He was making his presence known, and I think he had a pretty good game, and I'm going to give him some props. I know you could go with the other tight end if you really wanted to, who I think had 2 touchdowns on the day. But Jack, who's your game ball going to this week? I'm just going to go with Conklin, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think Irv Smith Jr. is the one that you're mentioning. He had 1 touchdown, 4 catches for 63 yards, and I'm going to go with him. I know Dalvin Cook is another obvious choice because you're going up against a Tampa Bay defensive front 7 that has been very good this year, and they were the first ranked rush defense in the entire NFL. But just seeing a little bit of what Irv Smith Jr. can do, I tweeted out I was frustrated throughout the day, but one of the only tweets that I had during the game was saying that Irv Smith Jr. needs to be utilized more frequently. And this game has taught us exactly that. This kid is special, and you get him involved. You have Dalvin Cook, you have Adam Thielen, and you have Justin Jefferson, who should be the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. That's a special offense. A quarterback like Kirk Cousins can take that or can have that as his offense, but he needs an offensive line. We're starting to see that. We thought the offensive line was getting close. I think it's not as close as we think. We need some help along that interior, that offensive line. But other than that, I want to give a shout out to Kirk Cousins as well. I know I said this earlier, but the 41 rushing yards, something like that, that was insane. I need to see that mobility continue for the rest of the year, especially if we want any chance to make some sort of push into the playoffs. Kirk Cousins is going to have to continue to utilize that mobility because the offensive line, quite frankly, is going to continue to give up pressures. So I'm going to give it to Irv Smith Jr. just because it shows how special this offensive unit can be in terms of a skilled position moving forward. And I think any quarterback is going to have a luxury if they come in and have the keys to this offense in 2021.
Yeah, it definitely is this offense is starting to feel like the Case Keenum year, where Bradford goes down and Keenum comes in, and then Keenum, ended up just playing the rest of the year, honestly. Like, I'm trying to think of when, he really didn't get hope. We tried Bradford again, but Bradford was still broken down, so we just put Keenum back in. He had to lead a comeback. But, this offense is starting to feel like plug and play with any mediocre or better quarterback, and you'd be able to just throw them out there and look at the weapons you have, look at the running back that you've got. I mean, it's again, there's a lot of optimism for next year, but we still have a playoff hope in this fan base. All right, the deep buried within it, in the center of it, there's still a playoff hope. The heart still beats. So let's talk about those playoffs and what we need to do to get there. We have to win out. I'll be frank. We can still make it if we don't win out, but then we need Arizona to lose 2 out of 3, just like we would. It gets dicey. We need Arizona to lose 1 right now, and we're in. They lose 1, we win out, we're in. It's that simple. If we lose a game, they have to lose 2. We lose 2 games, they have to lose all 3. It starts getting dicey. It starts getting very dicey. So. Let's start. It starts 1 week at a time. This week, the Chicago Bears on the dock. Jack, what's the injury report looking like for this game?
Yeah, the injury report's kind of weird this week. I wasn't able to actually find the Bears injury report. I'm going to refresh the Vikings page because normally it's at the bottom, but I even went, it's up there. Since I've said that, it has been put up here, so I was wrong. It's not looking great yet again. I know the Vikings have battled injury throughout the entire season. I know every team in the NFL has, so that's not really a viable excuse, but they're already without some of their big name players. Eric Kendricks did not practice again today. Kyle Rudolph did not practice today. Alexander Madison is still out with his injury. CJ Ham did not practice today, and Armand Watts did not practice. That does it for the did not practice. DJ Wanham is a full participant. Jordan Bradford was limited today. Switching over to Chicago, Deion Bush, one of their safeties, did not practice today. Jalen Johnson, their kind of hot rookie cornerback, has a shoulder injury. He did not practice today. And Buster Skrine, another cornerback, has a concussion, did not practice today. Everyone else listed, it looks like Jimmy Graham, Khalil Mack, Darnell Mooney were all listed on the injury report, but they were all full participants in Wednesday's practice.
All right, so the Vikings definitely going. I mean, we are limping into this game, and damn it, there's still hope.
Without Eric Kendricks being healthy, it seems like that's taking 3 players away from our defense. Honestly, that's how it feels.
Well, you got to think. I mean, he isn't known as, he's not Von Miller. He is not a linebacker. Even though Von Miller's not a linebacker. which I won't bitch about football schemes, but Von Miller's not a linebacker, but technically he's listed as a linebacker. He's not rushing the passer like him, but I mean, he still does blitz occasionally out of that double A gap look. He even comes in on some zone type blitzes, and he has the athleticism to get home quick. Of course, Anthony Barr would be better at it because that's his natural position, but he's out for the year and maybe off the team. Again, stuff we'll talk about more in the offseason, but Kendricks, then you move him back. He plays elite coverage and run defense and just covering that middle of the field. And then he has the athleticism to go with running backs on wheels and just take away the deep part of the field too. So he really is. I mean, he is a three part of the field. He's every part of the field defensive player, all three levels. That was the phrase I was looking for. And missing him is definitely going to hurt. And I was about to bring up Brandon Lee is in the chat saying that missing C.J. Ham as a lead blocker is going to be tough. I 100% agree. It got to the point on Sunday where we were in like 2 or 3 plays straight where C.J. Ham was the main attraction. We were dumping the ball off to him. We were handing it to him. And I really like C.J. Ham. He runs tough. And he's tough to bring down. And then what he brings in that run game, just creating holes for Dalvin Cook to hit, and then he gets to the second level to dance through, and then before you know it, you've got a big touchdown on your hands. C.J. Ham is just, we have to have him healthy, especially against the Chicago defense that, we've played already once. They are not easy to run the ball on. They're not easy to throw the ball on. It is a very good defense. So C.J. Ham not practicing, I think, other than him and Kendricks are the 2 biggest names on that list. And that says something about the Vikings that our fullback being dinged up honestly makes it seem like our whole offense is going to fall apart if he's not healthy come Sunday.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players where like the traditional fullback in the NFL is starting to teams are starting to veer away from that, unfortunately, which I know that smash mouth football. There's a lot of people out there that love that. And CJ Ham is a spitting image that he blows up holes. Dalvin Cook will be the first one to tell you that a lot of his success is because of CJ Ham and the skill sets he brings to this offense. Not only does he blow up holes for Dalvin Cook, but he was a running back in college. He was just a monster, like a monster. I was missing a word there, but he was a freak of a running back. He's a huge, big body, going to punch you in the mouth style running back. And oh, by the way, have you seen him catch the football to the backfield? He's not too shabby at that either. Yeah, that will be a huge loss for the Vikings if he's not able to go, especially against this front seven of Chicago.
Yeah, and I just want to give a quick shout out. Brandon Lee just gave us a follow. Thank you so much, Brandon. Followed our Facebook page, and I'm going to try and pronounce this name. Apologies in advance. I'm not known for my elite pronunciation of names. Avita Basu Banerjee. Do you know this name, Jack?
I do not.
Maybe it's a bot. Maybe we're getting hacked. Either way, Avita, if you are a real person, would love to see you pop up in the chat and say hello. And also, thank you for the follow. Make sure you head on over to our YouTube page, which is just Load the Box. We're live there as well right now. You can give us a follow there. We have some pretty big plans for that coming up in the works. And then also head on over to Twitter, by the way. Give us a follow there where you can just get, what is it, like 160 characters or something like that or less, so, you can get our takes. I think we were both pretty mad on Sunday.
You could say that
about the kicking situation. So you can get our opinions there as well. We live tweet the games. It's a good time. That Twitter handle is at LTB Vikings. One more time, at LTB Vikings. We'll do our Twitter handles a little later in the show because I don't want to take up too much time right now. I do want to talk about this Bears game and some key matchups that we're looking into. Also, my wife is in the chat saying to turn on notifications on YouTube as well. Hit that bell icon. I think we've all heard that. Make sure to click that subscribe button. Smash that subscribe button, all that. And then, but turn on the notifications. That way you can hear our lustful voices and our tones and all that bullcrap every Wednesday night and sometimes on Sundays if we're not too mad. But anyway, key matchups in this game that I'm looking forward to. I think it's really going to come down to who the hell's healthy on this Vikings team, because somebody's going to have to play with an injury. If CJ Ham's not healthy, I really don't see us getting 80 rushing yards in this game. I do think they can contain Dalvin Cook without Ham in there. So then it falls on Kirk Cousins, and that's who my first matchup is going to be. We saw Cousins get his first Monday night win against this Bears team. Hyped up as hell. Screaming, Just, I'm sure he was saying you like that. All of the Kirk Cousins tropes, well, full display during that Monday night game. We got to have that guy. We got to have running Kirk Cousins. He's probably going to have to take off because that offensive line is shaken right now. I don't know what the proper term is. He's going to have to throw some really good balls because the secondary is no joke, and he's going to have to hold on to the ball because I'm fearful that he is going to get taken to the ground just a few times. So he's going to have to play smart, and he's going to have to really ball out against the Chicago defense so that way we can put up, enough points to end up winning the game. So I think this comes down to Cousins' ability to throw the ball and also hold on to the ball whenever he does take a hit or two. And then to throw in there kind of a caveat, Mike Zimmer to realize, hey, the running game isn't working, and if he realizes that early, obviously you don't completely abandon it, but start calling some plays that's gonna make those safeties play honest and not let them sit down there and, pun very much intended, load the box on Dalvin Cook and the Vikings on Sunday. So that's my number one matchup, is just Cousins against this defense. Jack, what are you looking forward to in this game? Who's your big matchup? What's the head-to-head collision that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to start out by just saying this, which some people may laugh at me for this, but I will explain my reasoning behind this. Mitchell Trubisky starting for this team scares me a little bit more than Nick Foles starting for this team, because we have seen a very legitimate Vikings defense over the past 2 seasons. I'm not saying this season so much, but we've seen Mitchell Trubisky hurt a very legitimate defense with his legs rather frequently. And frankly, I'm scared that's going to happen again. You don't have Kendricks up there. You're going to have Troy Dye up there in the front seven playing linebacker. It was Todd Davis, I think, that stepped in as well. Troy Dye is athletic. He might have to have a big game. We might need to start running some sort of spy, because frankly, that's the biggest part of this game that scares me. I know they have some very good weapons as well. They have Montgomery coming out of the backfield, who's been playing rather well as of late. He broke a nice, I think it was an 80-yard touchdown to start their game off last week. Then they have some playmakers out wide as well. They have a rookie that there's a lot of people are very high on, Darnell Mooney. He's very talented. Obviously, Allen Robinson, I think, gets a little bit of disrespect, frankly, just because I think he plays for Chicago and doesn't quite have that quarterback that could take him to the next level. I think if you put him in another city, on another team, I think Allen Robinson could be bumping into top 10 conversation. But he has Mitchell Trubisky and he's had Nick Foles thrown to him, and they've struggled. So their offense is a little bit, it worries me a little bit. And I think I say that in particular because we don't have Eric Kendricks. You don't have Anthony Barr. You don't have your run stuffer up front, the Michael Pierce or Linval Joseph from last year. You don't have your elite pass rushers. And oh, by the way, you have one of the youngest secondaries in the entire NFL. It scares me. And switching over to the other side of the ball for our offense to find success, I'm going to say it again this week. I said it last week, and they ignore me. Gary Kubiak, if you're an avid listener of the show, please take this to heart. But I joke. I'm just kidding. But start this game out with a shot downfield. Start with a play-action play and let Kirk Cousins get out of the pocket and just sling it. The thing that we should go back on, we got that win at Soldier Field, which was a huge win at the time, obviously. Akeem Hicks got hurt and didn't play for most of that game, if I'm remembering correctly. That is a huge loss for their defensive line. If you remember when he was healthy for the first part of that game, he was stuffing Dalvin Cook. Oh, and by the way, he was getting in Dalvin Cook's head. They were jawing at each other, and he was absolutely blowing up the interior of our offensive line. And I think there's a lot of players that have that capability to do that to our offensive line, but Akeem Hicks is one of the best in the NFL at doing that. And he single-handedly was stuffing Dalvin Cook when he was, for the first however long he was on the field, when they played in Chicago. And I'm fully anticipating him being able to do the same thing to that interior of our offensive line, because frankly, they looked like crap in Tampa Bay. And I don't expect them to look, I mean, that was against Ndamukong Suh, and no disrespect to Suh. He's been in the league for a long time. Akeem Hicks, I think they might be even played. I don't know. Akeem Hicks is an absolute beast, and it scares me just putting Akeem Hicks's name in the same sentence as Dakota Dozier, quite frankly. That absolutely terrifies me, and I think he's going to be a force for Chicago, and that scares me. Like you said, you don't have to completely abandon the run, but I need to see a little bit more of a mix-up on this offense. Stop. It's first and second down. What's going to happen? They're going to put 7 guys in the box, and they are going to stuff Dalvin Cook. I don't care how versatile Dalvin Cook is. He's one of the best running backs in the entire NFL. We have two of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. We have a tight end that is ready to break out if he's given the opportunity to break out. Utilize them, keying in on Dalvin Cook, try to establish a run. You can still try. I don't think it's going to go very well, but utilize them, keying in on Dalvin Cook. Take some shots using play action and let Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen do their thing. This is a good secondary still, but we saw Justin Jefferson it was almost like his coming out party to the world because it was a Monday Night Football game in Chicago. He can beat these cornerbacks, but you have to give Kirk Cousins the time. And I haven't even thrown Khalil Mack's name in there. He's an absolute beast as well. So you have to find ways to let Kirk Cousins get some time and get outside the pocket. Because if you're going to go run on first down, run on second down, and then get into a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 situation, what do you think they're going to do? Khalil Mack's going to have pass in his mind, and he's going to have one thing in his mind. I am going to get to number 8, and I am going to drive his ass into the ground, quite frankly. That is what's going to happen if we continue this game plan. I need to see more shots taken on the field with utilizing that play action because that is where Kirk Cousins is at his best.
Yeah, I think that's where this offense is at its best, honestly, just with the way the offensive line's been playing, is whenever we can get the play action established. It's really funny. I kind of chuckled to myself whenever you said let Thielen and let Jefferson do their things, because Brandon Lee is in the chat right now saying let Jefferson do his thing. We have an elite wide receiver group, and I don't think anybody could dispute that. I know that one of them is very young, but right now the way they're playing, they're both playing at a very good level, very high elite level, and you just got it. This is one of those games, a lot of the times you run the ball to establish, you get the run established so you can throw it. This is a game where we throw the ball early and often, so that way when we do run the ball, maybe Khalil Mack over adjusts and, over commits to the pass. The safeties are, already in a backward sprint, and then Cook can, be gashing them for 5 or 6 yards. So we have to open up that air game soon. And also, you talking about Kubiak being an avid listener to the show. He's actually in the chat right now. He says noted about the play action on the first play. So maybe there's something spicy coming out. Maybe if
someone can go make a fake Facebook profile and name yourself Gary Kubiak, I would have the utmost respect for you. We need a Gary Kubiak burner in this chat.
We 100% need a Gary Kubiak bono in the chat, just sitting here explaining some of the things that they do. But yeah, Mike Zimmer needs to keep his hands off the offense this week, because I do think Kubiak wants to use these weapons. I don't think he's just all about, we have to run the ball 60 times and throw it 10 and win the games, 15-12 and do all that. So I do think Kubiak's going to want to open it up a little bit. Zimmer, get your damn hands off the offense, okay? You don't know what you're doing with our offense anymore, and especially if CJ Ham's out. This isn't a running game. This isn't the time to run the ball. Jack, looked like you were gearing up to say something. What do you got?
No, I was just going to say it's time to put the old Chevy pickup in the shed and just rip out the whatever, insert any sports car. It's time to take the Lamborghini and turn this offense into the Lamborghini rather than the old, reliable 1975 Chevrolet pickup truck. Let's get this thing moving. There's a ton of special pieces on this offense. Let's start to utilize it. I'm not saying that Dalvin Cook isn't a special player, because he's a top 2, top 3 running back in the entire NFL right now. But if it's not working, you have a quarterback that is more than capable of making big time throws and a couple great wide receivers that are going to bail him out of some bad throws as well. So it's time to just I want to see
Zimmer
it
sort of feels like the old O.J. Simpson style Bronco. It runs. It can get up to about 60. It's dependable. It'll win you a football game 15-12. But have you seen these new Ford Broncos, man? They are slick.
Yeah,
right? They're aerodynamic.
Just give me.
They throw the ball.
You don't. I love that we're talking about. I don't know where that analogy came. It just kind of popped.
No, I love it. I think it's a perfect analogy.
It's time to make that switch heading into 2021. My final thoughts on this week. I'll leave it at this. This is a good defensive team that we're playing against. Their offense have been subpar. The Vikings have so much talent heading into the 2021 season. I said at the beginning of the year, you said at the beginning of the year, this very well could have been a 10-6 football team. That was where I was leaning their prediction. This could still end up being a 9-7 playoff team. Quite frankly, it's not super realistic right now. They're not in control of their own destiny anymore. But moving forward, we never thought that this was going to be a year where the Vikings were going to make some astonishing run. We've said that it's happened in the past, but without the pieces they have on their defense right now, it's going to be too difficult to be up to speed with some of these high-powered offenses. You put Patrick Mahomes up against our defense right now, I legitimately think that guy can score 60 points just by himself. Switching over to 2021, this team could be special. There are a lot of special pieces in place. You got rid of some of the drama that was kind of circulating around this team in the offseason with Dalvin Cook's contract situation, half of the defense's contract situation, Stephon Diggs wanting to be traded. The drama's gone. It's time to there's another draft with a lot of pieces as well. There's going to be a lot of pieces added in the 2021 NFL draft. And there's a lot of pieces coming back. You get Anthony Barr, you get Michael Pierce back, you get Danielle Hunter back, you have DJ Wanham stepping up, you have the secondary starting to click, you get Kendricks and Barr back at your linebacking position, and you can maybe start to solidify that offensive line just a little bit more, maybe find a good free technique, find someone in free agency, and hit another draft out of the park. This 2021 Vikings team could be very special, but I need to see that start now. If it's going to continue to be Kerry Kubiak at the helm and Mike Zimmer at the helm, let's see you start to utilize these explosive pieces. I know there's people out there that think it's okay to hand the ball off to Dalvin Cook. It is okay to hand the ball off to Dalvin Cook because he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. I've said that like 5 times now in the last 20 minutes, I feel like. But that doesn't mean you don't utilize. And I know they've started to throw. They've had games where Cousins is throwing for 40 times in a game. But just let's start to mix it up a little bit. See how special this offense can be if you can get Kirk Cousins out in space and let him sling it down the field. With that play action, defenses are going to key in on Dalvin Cook, and rightfully so, because they know exactly what the Vikings want to do. I really want to see it. I'll end with this. I said it last week. I've said it once tonight. I need to see the Vikings just come out of the gates aggressive and let Kirk sling it on the first play of the game. I really want to see that. It's super unlikely, and I don't think that's going to happen. Start off with a play action, let Kirk load up, and find Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith Jr. streaking down the field. Do something. Something needs to change. There needs to be some sort of spark, and I think that needs to start this weekend against Chicago.
I 100% agree with you. I will say, every time you say stout by throwing the ball, I think Mike Zimmer gets an itch on his nose and he swats at it like it's a fly or something. He feels some disturbance in the force that he has to address immediately. But I really don't hate Mike Zimmer. I just hate.
No, I love Mike Zimmer. I want Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer's done a hell of a job this year. I was calling for his job early. I was like, give me Eric Bieniemy right now. Eric Bieniemy, Zach Wilson. Let's go win the Super Bowl. And now I'm kind of like, let's just ride out Cousins' contract. Let's let Zimmer have another year. We'll probably draft 17 defensive backs in the draft because he's sick and tired of having, a subpar secondary. But I think Zimmer's done a hell of a job this year. And my final thing that I'll say about this game is I 100% agree with you. Come out, be aggressive. And I kind of want to see this young team that kind of feels like it's just, I don't, going through the motions isn't the right word, but it feels like there's always somebody that's out of place. There's always somebody that, something's not clicking. I really want to see this team just click on all cylinders, jump out to an early 2 or 3 possession lead and just never look back, be in control of the game. Look, we're going to take care of Chicago. We know they're a decent team. We are better than them. Let's go play the Saints. Let's get back in control of our destiny, and let's go to the playoffs and see what happens. So I really want to see the Vikings make a statement this week. Will they? Keep watching. We'll tell you about it. Let's do game balls really quick.
And I just want to clarify something before we get into game balls. You're saying that the Vikings should get ahead of the team they're playing before they start to control the clock, correct? They shouldn't get out. They shouldn't be trying to control the clock when they're down 17-6. That's
no,
what you're
we've
saying, correct?
shown that even if we have the ball 40 minutes of a 60-minute game, we can still lose. So we need to build a cushion and keep the cushion. At no point do I want to feel any pushing. You know what I'm saying? I just want a lead. I want to keep the lead. And then if we go up 14-0 and then the game ends and we win 56-42, I'm fine with it. If it just if everything goes to crap and it turns into chaos, I'm fine with that. But this team just needs to jump out, man. I want to, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It feels like we just run the ball so much, and we do it effectively usually. But this week it just feels like we're going to open with a 3-and-out, run pass, punt, Okay, and now Trubisky just scrambled for 26 yards. Oh, shoot, they kicked a field goal. Oh, we're losing. And then, it just kind of snowballs from there. So we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But first, let's do game balls. And game balls here, load the box. That's the highest honor we can give you, man. If we give you a game ball, especially on the Wednesday night show, it means we believe in you. We think you have big things are coming. And, the biggest thing that you can be complimented on in your personal life, I think, at least myself, I don't know about Jack, I don't speak for Jack, but I think it's if somebody compliments your balls. So, of course, Manscaped, still proud to have them sponsor this show. They make some elite products. I mean, just elite products. Again, still don't think that razor could nick you if you tried. I think if you were tied up and you tried to use that razor to cut the rope, it would tone off. It just can't do it. I really don't. I can't explain it. They make some great smelling product. Keeps you fresh down there all day long. I mean, it's great products. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. It's starting to get dicey because Christmas is in 9 days. But you still might have time if you head over to manscaped.com. We can save you 20% off with the code LOADTHEBOX. Maybe you just put a little picture of the things that you buy in the stocking and you say, look, I was a little late to the game. That's on me. My bad. You're getting some 20% off Manscaped products. Great deal. Jordan and Jack got it for me. Again, that code is LOADTHEBOX. Saves you 20%. And then if you use the code MANSCAPEDPOD, that's Manscaped, it's over here, Manscaped, and then POD, P-O-D, all pushed together, one word, no spaces. That's going to get you free shipping on your order. Again, it's starting to get dicey. Christmas is literally in 9 days. We're in the single digits. But if you go on over, use code LOADTHEBOX, it'll get you 20% off. And hey, the new year starts. Maybe you're not even going to put it in somebody's stocking. Maybe you just want to start the new year, new you. All right? You want to stay trimmed. You want to smell good in your manly areas. I'm trying to keep this show PG, but having a sponsor like Manscaped really feels like you just got to talk about trimming your boys and giving them a fade and all that. But anyway, I've talked about, balls long enough. Let's go ahead and get the Manscaped logo out of here. Jack, let's just agree we're not going to give the game ball to Dan Bailey at any point.
I was thinking about that. I'm not gonna lie. I might have something to say in my score prediction. I'm still not 100% sure, but I have the defense this week, and it's kind of tricky. I think there's a very legitimate chance that Mitchell Trubisky is gonna make a few mistakes. This defense still scares me. You still have Harrison Smith kind of being the true veteran type presence. Anthony Harris is another guy that got a lot of rave last year, led the NFL in interceptions last year, and he's not been the same this year. I think that's very, very well noted. Last week, you go back and you turn on the All-22, you watch the film. That play where I can't remember who it was.
Scotty Miller.
Corner. It was Scotty Miller. Yes, I don't remember which corner it was. Anthony Harris bit on a drag route that was coming across the field, and it was. I'm almost positive it was cover 3, so he has deep thirds. That was his responsibility, and he screwed that up. So that was kind of frustrating to see because there was a lot of rave about him. Put him on the franchise tag, paid him a lot of money this year. Honestly, not 100% sure he's going to be back. I think this team has some faith. It's hard to say faith in him because he hasn't legitimately played, but Miles Dorn is a name to keep an eye on for next season. He was a undrafted free agent out of North Carolina, and he's still on the team. He's hurt right now, hasn't gotten the reps, but I think there's a legitimate chance. He's an undrafted guy still on the roster. That means the Vikings have some sort of feelings about him. Oh, and by the way, Anthony Harris was also an undrafted safety. But I'm going on about safeties, and I'm not even picking a safety for my game ball pick. So having said that, I really think this game is going to be about, if the Vikings want to win this game, they're going to have to get Mitchell Trubisky uncomfortable. We haven't seen any type of pass rush. And quite frankly, I think we're going to have to see some sorts of, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this for the game ball perspective, but I think this is a game that is, it's hard to say make or break for the season, but it is because there's still playoff implications on the line. The Vikings could still miss the playoffs. I'm going to come out and say this right now. This team's going to have to find some creative ways to confuse Mitchell Trubisky. Mike Zimmer's going to have to disguise some blitzes, disguise some coverages. And I'm not picking a player this week for my game ball. I'm going to give my game ball to Mike Zimmer because he's going to have to do something creative. I know this offense isn't historically great. It's not a great offense that they're playing against, but this offense will be able to score points if we played how we've played in the last couple of weeks. And quite frankly, Zimmer's going to have to dial up some special blitz packages, going to have to confuse Trubisky with some coverage disguises as well. Mike Zimmer, come out on Sunday and show this Vikings fan base why you are still the head coach of this football team. You are a great defensive football mind. Show that on Sunday, because this is not, Mitchell Trubisky is not a quarterback that Mike Zimmer should be very scared of, and they have to get after him. They're going to have to sack him a few times, because if he gets away from that pressure, it could hurt us. Like I said earlier, Mitchell Trubisky can scramble, and he's hurt the Vikings that way in the past. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give my defensive game ball to the man at the helm, Mike Zimmer, because he's going to have a strong play calling performance on Sunday.
Yeah, David LaTuff, I believe is his name, points out that it was Chris Jones and that it is always Chris Jones.
If you go back, I have had some conversations with some of my scouting buddies. Chris Jones has actually been pretty legit in coverage. That touchdown to Scotty Miller was not on Chris Jones. It was Anthony Harris's fault 100%. If it's deep thirds, you're supposed to be in your zone. No one's supposed to get behind you. And Anthony Harris bit on the drag. And quite frankly, he let that guy, you can see Chris Jones realize it too. If you will go back and watch it live, he's like, no one's there. And then he takes off with them. I think that's not his spot. He should honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to think what his job would have been in that situation.
Well, it depends on what zone he has.
Yeah,
he might have been playing.
He could have been the other deep third too, honestly.
Well, and a lot of zones nowadays are kind of managed zones where it's like stick with your guy and then kind of let him go and find somebody else to cover. It's getting very high buddy in the NFL.
It's complicated. There's a lot of stuff.
There's a reason that we do an internet show about football, and we're not out there calling plays from the the little the little menu or whatever. But Chris Jones.
But I will say on Chris Jones, sorry not to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I'm gonna finish this thought before I forget it. He has made some boneheaded plays. That Tony Pollard play against Dallas, where he just quite frankly didn't make the tackle.
Yep.
Those type of plays cannot happen in the NFL. He's been decent in coverage, but he cannot make plays like that, because no one in the NFL, frankly, I was the same scouting buddy I was talking to. I had this conversation. I couldn't imagine what my high school coach would have said to me if I did that in a high school game. This guy's getting paid millions. I don't know if it's millions of dollars. I don't know what Chris Jones' salary is. He's getting paid to go out and do this on Sundays, and the lack of effort it's unacceptable. When I was playing in Pop Warner League, it was unacceptable in middle school. It's unacceptable in high school. It's unacceptable in any level of football you play, let alone in the NFL.
Yeah, I wanted him cut after that Pollard play. That's exactly what I was going to say too, was that in coverage, yeah, he's been all right, but in every other aspect of the game, he hasn't been all right. And that's why we like Jeff Gladney so much, right? Is how physical he plays and how he gets down, he gets dirty. He's, hitting guys in the knees and taking them out. And Chris Jones, he's a running back in a game that you are, fighting for your life in, and he's just like, I don't get paid enough to tackle a running back that's running at me at full speed. I'm gonna sit this one out. Somebody else will get him. Oh shoot, there's no safety. And David LaTuff again in the chat saying Jones has blown too many plays this year to let him off the hook. Followed him all the way across the field, didn't stand a chance. And then he says that Pollard play was pitiful. We 100% agree with you, David. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for voicing your opinion. By the way, if you're watching the show live right now, go ahead and drop in the chat who you think is going to end up getting a game ball this week. You can pick anybody. You can pick Dan Bailey. You can pick Mike Zimmer. Hell, you can honestly just say something in the chat, man. I love whenever I see people commenting. I like that this show kind of has that interactive feel to it now. But moving on to the offensive side of the ball, I really feel like I'm just that you can tell by looking at me that I like the offensive line. Like, I'm just built that way. I've got the broad shoulders. I'm a big fat guy. Like, I clearly like offensive linemen. And I'm not going to pick. I typically, this is the part of the show where I will start screaming about, Brian O'Neill, Khalil Mack. It's going to be the showdown of the century. No, I'm not going to do that. This week, the game ball, it's tough to say this, but I think it's going to end up going to Cousins. And I don't know why it's tough to say that. Maybe it's because I'm, number one, in the Cousins hater, column. But I think Cousins, and this is being that we win the game. If we're going to win this game, Cousins is going to have to make some big-time throws, show that he's got a set of Manscaped-approved testicles, and just hang in there, take a beating. It's going to be no pun intended, it's going to be goody. It's going to be a battle on the field. I mean, it's going to be old school football, but Cousins is going to have that little bit of a flash, that little bit of, new school offense in him. He's going to have to find Thielen and Jefferson and Smith Jr. and maybe Rudolph. I don't know if Rudolph's going to play. He didn't practice. He was out last week. It's kind of questionable, but he's going to have to find his guys, and, they are more than capable of getting open and making the plays. So it's just going to be on Cousins to make the right decisions. Don't make boneheaded mistakes. I've seen Cousins, and now my Facebook memories are popping up from that first season with Cousins and how vocal I was that every time we were in a big game, Cousins was throwing pick sixes and costing us games. No bonehead plays this week. We have beaten this team before, and Cousins played a big part in that. So I want to see him, find Thielen and Jefferson 8 times each, get them both over 100 yards, get this ball moving with Cousins' hands. It's in Minnesota, in a dome, no wind, no weather factor. It should just be a game where Cousins should feel comfortable, and he should be able to go out there and hopefully sling the ball. So I'm gonna put my faith in Cousins. Usually when I do this, bad things happen. But I'm going to do it this week, so I'm going to do that. Brandon Lee is saying hopefully no more terrible calls this week. I agree with you. The refs have been awful. I'm sure Harrison Smith will come close to getting ejected for, touching somebody. David Latuff again said Wilson with the game ball this week focuses on Trubisky and keeps him under wrap. That's interesting, David. I could actually see that going to Troy Dye. Troy Dye being the guy who they kind of.
I was going to bring up Dye earlier because he's more athletic. He's more athletic, and I think, Wilson's definitely more physical, and I think he's caught some. He's been hit or miss throughout the season. I think you can say he's had some very big games where I think some of those big games are more of a defensive schematic thing. Granted, he did make the plays, but he was more in the right place at the right time. Yeah. Troy Dye, this is going to be a big moment for Troy Dye because Troy Dye. Granted, I think he needs to put on some weight going into next season. He needs to bulk up a little bit. But he has that, I think coming out of college, people said he can almost play that, I'm trying to think of the right word. He can almost play in that, not nickel role, but that specialty linebacker role that we've seen in that hybrid safety / linebacker role that we've seen. If a Jaron Kearse came in, I've heard and I've read a little bit about that he's athletic enough to play like that. And I think he could be the guy. I was actually going to bring that up earlier. It's funny that you said that. I agree with you. I think he could be a guy that plays a big part. I know he's missed some tackles or missed quite a few tackles this year, and that can't happen, but I could definitely see Troy Dye playing an impact in this game.
And, honestly, if you look at it, Wilson definitely has him beat in just, I would say, a experience standpoint, obviously, and his just knowledge of the game at this point in their careers. Troy Dye's a rookie, but I do think you can't put, what's the other linebacker's name?
Todd Davis.
Thank you. You can't put Todd Davis out there and tell him to keep up with Mitch Trubisky because Trubisky's just so quick. He might be able to, easily just run around him, and then what do? There goes Trubisky right by him. So I do think that Dye might literally just be put in, and it's your job is to sit and just watch Trubisky, and if he goes outside of that pocket, go get him, and don't let him lead. Don't let him get over the line of scrimmage because we will. If he beats us over the air. Good for Chicago. They found their quarterback that hasn't been good for 3 or 4 seasons. So I could see Dye doing that. David Latuff says Dye might make sense too. I just think Wilson can move across the field so efficiently that he can play that almost that sounds all y'all mentioned earlier, with hopefully Kendricks playing a little more in coverage with his cover skills. That's kind of what I'm getting at here, David, is that I don't know if Kendricks is going to play. Didn't participate in practice again today, and obviously missed last week's game. He's a big loss. If Kendricks was in, I'd agree. It's 100% going to be Eric Wilson in charge of keeping Trubisky in contain. This week it feels like okay, well Wilson is now the best coverage guy we have. And then we put the spy guy on, to the second athletic linebacker, who in this case would be Troy Dye. So I'm going to go with Cousins for my game ball. You said you are going with
Mike Zimmer
That's right. That's
gets
right.
my
I
game
remember
ball.
you cheated, but I couldn't remember who exactly it was that you cheated with. Let's do skull predictions, man, and then let's get out of here really quick. Eli Peterson, thank you so much for the follow. You are the real MVP. Thomas Evering. Do you think Anthony Barr will be a name that gets floated around the table or in the trade talks this offseason? Harrison Smith as well. My prediction, just off the cuff from hearing that, Anthony Barr doesn't get traded. He gets cut to save money. Harrison Smith finishes his career as a Viking. In my opinion, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Zimmer looks at that man as a son, and I think it would have to be like a Jamal Adams level trade to get Zimmer to even think about it, but I don't think Harrison Smith is getting traded mid-season for a 5th-round pick and a bag of balls. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy. Jack, I'll let you give your opinion on that, and then on the futures of Anthony Barr and Harrison Smith, and then you can give your score prediction first.
Yeah, I think Harrison Smith is safe, like you said. I don't, especially with how thin we are at the safety position. I think it's definitely, if one of the safeties is going to be gone at the end of the year, it just seems like it's going to be Anthony Harris. Given he's on the franchise tag, you're going to have to work out some sort of deal. He's going to want to get paid more money than the Vikings will probably be willing to pay him. And I actually disagree with you on Anthony Barr. I don't think there may be a chance for some sort of restructure on Barr. But similar to the safety position, that linebacking group that the Vikings have is extremely thin without Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr. We just saw, I know Anthony Barr is on, it's not like the most team-friendly deal. We saw his boy Eric Kendricks take some sort of, or he took a little bit of a pay cut or some money off to the side in order to get Delvin Cook to resign. I think Anthony Barr stays here, and I'll just say, I think a huge part of that, you saw what he did to the Jets, where he said he signed with the Jets and then he came back to Minnesota. I think he wants to be here. I think he likes his role as much as he probably should be more of a 3-4 outside linebacker that's getting after the passer. I think he understands. He calls the plays for Zimmer, and I'm almost positive that I'm right about this. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might play a little bit of a pull on the emotional strings of Zimmer, like you said about Harrison Smith. I think Anthony Barr might be Zimmer's first pick as a head coach. So I think that has something to do with it as well. I think there's a legitimate concern for getting paid a little bit more than he probably should, especially because I think he's paid like that outside linebacker, and he's not really like that in this Vikings defense. But he is the play caller for this Vikings defense. He is, I believe, he's been a captain as well. He's a leader of this team, and I personally, I have pretty strong beliefs that he will be back. I know that the fan base is kind of divided on that, but I think they'll both be here for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and David is in the chat offering you a $20 bet for